Please give a warm welcome to Felipe Carazo, Executive Director of FUNDECOR.
It's a pleasure to be again visiting the Emirates, and as my fellow citizens mentioned, we are extremely humble for the invitation that we received to be part of the World Government Summit. I'm going to talk about how Costa Rica is aspiring to take one more step in building a green economy model. Of course, when we come to the Emirates, and if you go to Masdar, for example, Masdar City, you see a bit of that hope that Vice Chancellor was talking about. We see an enormous impression of how a country that has based its economy on oil is aspiring to evolve and create a different model, a different evolution. Wait, but I'm not talking about Costa Rica here. I'm talking about the Emirates. Well, there is a parallel story between that hope-oriented approach of the Emirates with the hope-oriented approach of Costa Rica. And Costa Rica has created a similar process over more than 30, 40 years in which basically we took advantage of the peace dividend that Minister Garrido was talking about. Costa Rica was able to transform its model and invest in education and health and nourish a generation that was able to put in place a sustainable development model that has as a cornerstone forest coverage, protected areas, renewable energy. That has allowed our country to achieve a level of awareness that goes around 75%. 75% of Costa Ricans are environmentally aware. That's very strong. That's one of the reasons we don't have a green party. There's no need for it. The green component it has been mainstreamed in the politics of the country, and I think nobody will dare to go against that. That awareness has allowed our country to take decisions and ban mining and ban oil exploration out of our development model. That's a very powerful proposition. But if we're putting all those eggs in one basket, we should get it right? We better get it right. That brings us to the Green Hub. To how do we go and take another step forward as a result of what we've achieved that has been very well presented by my fellow citizens. The 2.0 model, the how do we generate value as a result of the elements that we have put in place as a country. And the Green Hub is an initiative that tries to build the vehicle through which we can achieve that, through which we can take that step forward and create an economic value model. You go to countries like Singapore. Singapore, you need advice in port logistics. You look into those economies. You need advice in financial services. There's Switzerland. Katrina goes and destroys New Orleans. They call the Dutch. Well, how do we, as Costa Ricans, create a value proposition for the world? However, we're not experts in all the fields of sustainability. And as it was presented, we still have our own gaps in terms of renewable energy nourishment to the vehicle matrix. So we need to be creative. How do we go about the alliances? But before building the alliances, we have to be aware that we can generate solutions. We can work as a laboratory. When our president leads a new generation that's totally convinced that we should strive to take that further step, when he commits our country to a decarbonization agenda, full decarbonization agenda, we already made advances in the forestry metrics. We've made advances on the renewable energy metrics to nourish electricity. but we have to fill the gap with vehicular mobility. And when he commits to be a decarbonized country in 2030 and 2050, not only he commits to that, he commits to be a laboratory for decarbonization. What does that mean? We're going to test the solutions so we can fix our own gaps or fill up our own gaps, but also generate solutions that can be adaptable and used in other countries, as we can do now with what we've done with forestry. 54 countries under the Paris Agreement are in need to look at solutions for forestry. Costa Rica has done it. Costa Rica doubled forest cover while increasing 3 times its GDP. There's a market out there. The Sustainable Development Goals set another market. There's an opportunity to move forward in that direction. But to do that, we need to be clever about how to go about it. And we need to establish the appropriate partnerships. So this brings me to the first slide, to that parallel story that has been taking place here in the United Arab Emirates, in the desert. The desert and the tropics. 2 small countries pushing forward an agenda of innovation and development that can bring sustainability to the core of the development model. How can we join forces and go beyond that? How can we have a potential, powerful proposition that can allow our countries to go out and knock in the World Bank's table and say, where are you putting your resources and how can we accompany with technology, with innovation solutions, with policy propositions? If Germany and Norway are going to invest $4 billion in the forest matrix of the world, how can we go and put a solution jointly? If the Caribbean needs a solution for renewable energies, how can we get the mass-produced solar panel, adapted the technology to the tropics in a breathing lab in Costa Rica, and provide a solution that allows to have conditions of energy security in the Caribbean? We're already doing that. We're already talking between our countries in setting up the Green Hub as a joint venture, one in which you have science as an input of the innovation laboratories in renewable energy, in climate action metrics, in blue economy. But there could be more: waste management, food security, and many others. But also in such a way that those solutions generated on the ground in tangible results can then be transferred and exported to these upcoming markets that the SDGs and the Paris Agreements are generating. The logic has to be sustainable. We have to make it a sustainable enterprise. We have to have a business model around it. Inputs going through the management process, which allows us to have sustained impacts. And as we've seen in this summit, we need to do it with the new advances in technology. We need to be sharp, we need to be effective, we need to measure, we need to make sure that this is competitive. So there is a cross-cutting element here, which is technology. How that can be part of the model. And this is the beauty of making a bridge between 2 countries through the diplomatic relationships, but in such a way that we can aspire to have a more high quality value proposition. Processes like monitoring biomass and carbon in high precision can then be exported to many areas. Would it be with mangroves or would it be with forests? We can use blockchain to trace the carbon footprint diminished by a solar panel in such a way that we can link it to energy bill. We can do it with coffee and link it to your coffee, the one we're sipping every moment that we're taking a break. All of this is possible only if you have the appropriate assortment of partners, of stakeholders. The academy, the private sector, the government with its public umbrella, the innovation startups. That we already put it here in this agreement between Costa Rica and the Emirates in practice. We're already talking and outlining a route that can allow us to achieve this. How do we formalize the political will? How do we establish a coordination unit that allows us to really do the architecture and design of the instrument? How do we put in place the bankable projects that can assure that if we put capital, we mobilize investment, can allow us to get the returns out of the solutions that we're going to develop? And how do we go out and capture the markets? How do we get ready for it? How do we take it seriously and believe we can do it? That's what we're striving to do with the Green Hub, as a joint venture between the United Arab Emirates and Costa Rica, in which these parallel stories of innovation, of daring to make things different, start to get together in one sole front. We look forward to working together. We look forward to becoming partners. We look forward to co-investing in a solution-oriented approach. And we look forward to hopefully in spaces like the pre-COP in Costa Rica, COP26 in the Emirates, Expo 2020 in Dubai, to use those platforms as great windows, platforms to show the world that we can really go out and do business together. We can go out and do alliances together and look out for solutions that the humanity has committed to. Thank you very much.